What's up everybody, Chris coming to you from Salty Island, and we are coming in with Season 2 of Warzone Emperiea. In the first round, we did 9 games in which the Imperial defenders of the Forge World Emperiea battled against the great enemy, everything from Chaos Warbands to sleeping NECRONS and rampaging Orks. And as the dust settles, the scores are tallied, and the Imperial defenders were only able to score one victory by the Adeptus Mechanicus of Forge World Metallica over the NECRONS. So suffice to say, things aren't looking good as the defenses of the planet are greatly weakened. But here, in Season 2, we have new armies, updated rules, balanced data slate changes, and what better way to start than checking out 2 of the biggest winners recently. In addition, at the end of this video, we'll be giving some thoughts on the new codex and the power armor buff. Our Tyranid Hive fleet has just gotten a new codex, and with it a huge power buff. While the models will look similar to Season 1, there have been some significant changes. Led by the Swarmlord, he's a named character so no specific relic for him, however his stat line is stronger than ever, and he has an updated psychic powers in the form of Catalyst and Onslaught. The Carnifex is now evolved into the Screamer Killer variety, giving him a nasty ranged attack, and on top of that, he's got adrenal glands to move faster and hit harder. On top of that theme, he has the adaptive physiology precognitive sensoria, which gives him the fight first ability in close combat. For troops, 10 Hormagaunts with toxin sacks, and lastly, 3 Ripper Swarms brings this army to 500 points. The Hive fleet is now making use of Hive fleet Behemoth rules as it better suits the close combat focused nature of this force. Looking to drive off the Hive fleet before it can push any further in, the Space Marines of the Sons of the Phoenix return with an updated list, and the brand new Armor of Contempt special rule, worsening the armor penetration characteristics of all attacks that target them by 1. This force is led by a Primaris Lieutenant with the Warlord trait Indomitable, the Relic Bolt Pistol Purgatorus, and a Power Sword. He's supported by a squad of 7 Intercessors, all with bolt rifles, 1 Invader ATV with multi-melta, and lastly a Redemptor Dreadnought, armed with Macroplasma and the Onslaught Gatling Cannon. As is appropriate for a successor chapter hailing from the Sons of Dorn, they will be using the Imperial Fist chapter rules. Quick pause just to say, we would appreciate a like and a subscribe if you enjoy this content. 40k is getting more expensive, but so long as people out there enjoy our content, we'll keep doing it for the love we have for this setting. In today's mission, we are playing Data Acquisition out of Mission Pack Beyond the Veil. In this mission, there are 4 objectives represented by 4 Imperial operatives on the battlefield. Each holds some vital information about the ongoing war. Both sides are looking to retrieve the information these operatives have in very different means. In game terms, it is an action for a unit that is not a character, beast, or vehicle to retrieve the data, so long as there are no enemy units within range of it. They can only do this action once per game for each objective. Scoring works as follows: 10 points at the end of a player's turn if they control 1 or more objective markers, 10 more points if you control more objective markers than your opponent, and lastly, 10 points if you complete the retrieve the data action in the turn. Finally, at the end of the game, there's going to be a bonus 30 victory points if you have completed the retrieve data action on all 4 objective markers. Let's check out if the buffed Space Marines are now enough to take on the new and improved Tyranids. Tyranids win the roll-off for the first turn, and they waste no time at all, pushing forward, but still conscious of the massive firepower that explosive bolster shells can put out, and the fact that Imperial Fist tactics also negate the bonus to light cover. But more important than that, the Ripper Swarms are neither a beast nor a vehicle, and thus begin the retrieve the data action, literally eating the brains out of the Imperial operative to gain his genetic material and absorb the knowledge he has obtained. Swarmlord gets off the psychic ability Catalyst, but doesn't see a reason to go for anything else, and with the Sons of the Phoenix out of range for any sort of charges, they put the pressure on quickly by scoring 30 points in their first turn. Though they deployed defensively, the Space Marines push forward to begin thinning the Tyranid numbers before they can reach their lines. The Intercessors stop to retrieve the data from their ally, transferring the knowledge to their data slate to be uploaded back to their ship in orbit. The Invader ATV opens up at the Swarmlord, firing his multi-melta and landing both hits. The bone-plated armor no defense against the blast, though Catalyst does allow the terrifying monster to shrug off 2 of the wounds, just taking 5 wounds in total, about a third of its life. On the other side, the Redemptor Dreadnought overcharges the Macroplasma Incinerator. In response, the Screamer Killer Carnifex uses the new stratagem, Indomitable Monstrosity. It curls up defensively, and now it can only be wounded on a 4+. It gets 4 shots, landing 4 hits, but only 1 wound. A failed save puts 3 wounds on the Carnifex. The rest of the army rains bolter fire and onslaught Gatling fire into the Tyranid lines, though the new and improved monstrosities of the Hive fleet shrug off all of the incoming fire. Thanks to the actions of the Intercessors, they're keeping the battle close, and the score at the end of the first turn is Tyranids 30, Sons of the Phoenix 20. In turn 2, the Tyranids hurl themselves out of cover with incredible speed, making good use of many of their new abilities. The Swarmlord activates the stratagem Rapid Regen, allowing him to heal 2 wounds. Then the Hormagaunts spend the command point to use Bounding Advance. This allows them to make an advance move total of 16 inches and still make a charge the same turn. Swarmlord also has 2 inbuilt abilities. First, Domination of the Hive Mind, which allows the Hormagaunts to reroll their hit rolls, and Hive Commander, which gives the Hormagaunts objectives secured this turn. For psychic powers, he casts Onslaught on the Carnifex, succeeding with a Perils of the Warp, and is in range because he just needs to be in the Synapse range, letting the Carnifex also charge even though he is well advanced. And of course Catalyst on himself. Another new stratagem is Power of the Hive Mind, allowing the Swarmlord to cast 1 additional psychic power, in which he succeeds at casting Unstoppable Onslaught. This is Hive Fleet Behemoth's new psychic power, which gives the Hormagaunts +1 on their wound rolls. The Carnifex shrieks at the Dreadnought, the piercing volume disrupting its circuits for a moment, putting 3 wounds on it as the bladed monstrosity charges across the field into battle. Calmly shaking its senses clear, it opens fire with all its weapons in Overwatch, firing 2 plasma shots, 8 Stormbolter shots, and 12 Onslaught Gatling shots. The Carnifex takes 2 wounds total as it wades through the incoming fire, slamming headfirst into the Redemptor Dreadnought. Up top, the Hormagaunts leap into battle against the Intercessors, threatening to overrun their lines, and the Swarmlord looks to pay back the damage it took from the Invader ATV. Thanks to its adaptive physiology, the Carnifex has the Strike First ability, a total of 11 attacks on the charge that now hit on 3s, give it 5 hits, and 2 wounds. 2 failed saves sees the Dreadnought take 6 more wounds. Swarmlord now has 9 attacks, and he gets 8 hits and 7 wounds. Again, the AP of the new Tyranid attacks is just too high for the Armor of Contempt rule to really make a difference here, as the Invader ATV is torn apart in a fury of bone and blood. Lastly, the Hormagaunts now have 3 attacks each, and can attack from 2.5 inches away, more than enough to get everyone into combat. 30 attacks with rerolls sees 21 hits, and then +1 to wound sees 8 wounds total. This time, Armor of Contempt really does make a difference though, taking only 2 wounds, seeing 1 Intercessor fall. The Redemptor is wounded as he swings back with his 4 attacks, getting 2 hits and then 2 wounds. Though the Carnifex makes 1 save, the other hits with D3 +3 damage, and landing the big 6 damage, bringing down the big beastie. The Intercessors pile in with 13 attacks of their own, and while they land 9 hits and 4 wounds, the Hormagaunts make a lucky 3 saves, seeing only 1 of their number fall. and because of the objectives secured from the Swarmlord, it cancels out the ability of the Intercessors, and the Tyranids actually have more models on objective number 2, giving them control of it, and thus more than the Marines, scoring 20 points this turn, bringing the Tyranid score up to 50. While they're starting to fall behind in scoring, things are looking good with the destruction of the Carnifex. It's now the Marines' turn to make use of their selection of stratagems. First, one command point for Wisdom of the Ancients from the Dreadnought to inspire his brethren to reroll hit rolls of 1. Then second, one more command point for close range bolter fire on the Intercessors. This gives all of their bolt rifles the pistol profile, allowing them to shoot in close combat. Lastly, the last 2 command points are spent on rapid fire on the Intercessors. This allows them to shoot twice this round. The Lieutenant moves up, providing his aura buff to reroll 1s to wound, also helping the Sons of Dorn do what they do best. Starting out with the shooting phase, the Intercessors first fire into the Hormagaunts. 12 shots with the 6s counting as 2 hits, see them scoring 13 hits total, then landing 11 wounds. A terrible save roll wipes out the unit completely, freeing up the Intercessors from close combat. Then the rapid fire effect triggers, seeing their second round of shooting now go into the Swarmlord. 12 more shots with 12 hits, but this time only 2 wounds because the Swarmlord is now toughness 8, and an easy 2 saves as Swarmlord brushes off the bolter fire mockingly. 3 shots then from Lieutenant's relic pistol Purgatoris lands 3 hits and 3 wounds. The Swarmlord sticks 1 more save, but after that Catalyst kicks in, letting him shrug off 1 of the damage, but he still takes 3. Lastly, the Dreadnought once again opens fire with the Macroplasma. Overcharging it for maximum damage, he gets 2 shots, but something must have happened during the fight with the Carnifex as he promptly rolls 2 1s. Luckily, he then gets the reroll on that, but even with that, he still throws another miss and another 1 as the plasma weapon overloads, causing feedback and dealing a wound on himself. The remainder of the weapons open fire, but between Onslaught Gatling and Stormbolter, the Swarmlord ignores all the incoming damage. Seeing the might of this terrible creature gives the Lieutenant pause as he hesitates for a moment, contemplating his next move, but this causes him to miss the opportunity to charge into close combat. Fortunately for him, the ancient Dreadnought knows what he must do. Chanting his praise to the God Emperor, he barrels into the Swarmlord, the Dreadnought power fist swinging. He gets 4 attacks, but only lands 1 hit, and then 1 wound. Even though the Swarmlord fails his save, he does have a new ability, Blade Parry, that allows him to change the damage of the first failed close combat attack to be 0 damage. And in return, the Swarmlord swings his 9 attacks back, getting 4 hits and 1 wound. The last failed save is just enough as the Dreadnought crashes to the ground, as the Swarmlord roars in defiance of the defending Marines. With that said, during this time the Intercessors have retaken control of objective number 2, allowing them to score both holding an objective and now holding more than the Tyranids, giving them 20 points to close the gap back to a score of Tyranids 50, Space Marines 40. Though on paper the battle looks close, the fight is about to come to a swift close. The Swarmlord uses rapid regeneration to begin to heal once again. Up top, the Ripper Swarms move on to Objective 3 and begin devouring the mines and important strategic knowledge of the target there, while the Swarmlord then closes the gap and swiftly makes his charge into both the Lieutenant and the Intercessors. The Swarmlord begins splitting its attacks as it mercilessly begins slaughtering the Primaris one at a time, starting with the Lieutenant, and then picking off Intercessors who bravely hold their ground, hoping for any reinforcements that will not get there in time. While the Intercessors continue to hold one objective, the Ripper Swarms are free to travel to the other 3, free to obtain the data that the Hive mind seeks. All the while, the Swarmlord regains more wounds than the gun butts and bolter rounds of the Intercessors are able to take from him. At the end of turn 3, the score becomes 70-50 before the last of the Intercessors acknowledge the need for a tactical withdrawal before their lives are needlessly thrown away. And there you have it, everyone. Tyranid victory. Though I will be honest, I originally played this game when the Tyranid leak happened and before the Space Marines got the Armor of Contempt update, and in both playthroughs the games were extremely one-sided, with the Tyranids tearing through the units by the end of turn 2 on each of the other games. So I will say that the new Space Marine buff is quite powerful. With that said, the new Tyranids Codex is extremely good, and I fully expect to see a balance patch come out shortly, as GW seems to be fond of currently doing. But for now, it has been a good long time since Tyranids have been a force to be feared, and honestly I think they're due some time in the spotlight, so good on them. This is not the Hive Mind taking over this YouTube channel, and that is not something a Hive Mind would say. Or is it? If you enjoyed this content, please do consider giving a like and subscribe, or even share with your fellow Hive fleet so they know the galaxy is ripe for eating. But most importantly, everyone, thank you very much, and remember, Om Nom Nom.